Hello everybody, today's topic is types of communication barriers. You know that communication is the key factor in the success of any organization. When it comes to effective communication, there are certain barriers that every organization faces. Many social psychologists opine that there is a 50 to 70% loss of meaning while conveying the messages from a sender to a receiver. And the most commonly found barriers in communication in organization are organizational barriers, personal or individual barriers, semantic or language barriers, and other barriers. Organizational barriers are generated from the organizational setups, which are negative organizational climate, lack of rules and policies, excessive authority layers, and complexity of organizational structure. Negative organizational climate. Top-level executives are fully responsible for negative organizational climate. Negative attitude of the top-level executive discourages the communication initiatives of the employees. Lack of rules and policies. Different types of rules and policies are needed to operate and manage the organization smoothly. If top-level executives do not set or amend the existing rules and policy, there will be no proper direction at all. Excessive authority layers. When too much authority layers are created in the organizational structure, gapping or overlapping of information may occur in the communication. Complexity of organizational structure. Organizational structure can also result in communication being ineffective. Greater the hierarchy in an organization, more is the chances of communication getting destroyed. Only the people at the top level can see the overall picture, while the people at low level just have knowledge about their own area and a little knowledge about their areas. Personal or individual barriers. Personal or individual barriers are generated from any lacking or shortcomings of the sender or receiver, which are differences in personality, differences in perceptions, stereotyped behavior, inattention, misunderstanding, fear and threat, preassumption, emotion, and distrust. Differences in personality. Differences in personality may create communication problem in the organization. The most common problem faced these days is that of the difference in opinion between two people. Differences in perceptions. Another hindrance could be a perceptual barrier. The problem with communicating with others is that we all see the world differently. Perception may differ depending on the cultural, emotional, personal, and spiritual background of the person. Stereotype behavior. Stereotype behavior leads to common statements and mindset about others. Such wrong assumptions about a person or a group sometimes make the communication defective or problematic. Inattention. If the receiver of the message is not attentive to the speaker or communication, he may miss to hear something. Misunderstanding. Employees may misunderstand with each other, which can create communication problems. Fear and threat. Sometimes subordinates do not send true messages due to fear and threat of punishment. It creates a problem in communication. Preassumption. If the receiver has any preassumption about the message, communication is disrupted. Emotion. It is composed mainly of fear, mistrust, and doubt. Emotional state at a particular point of time also affects communication. If the receiver feels that communicator is angry, he interprets that the information being sent is very bad. If the sender of the message becomes emotional, actually he cannot send necessary information to the receiver. And lastly, distrust. If we do not trust the sender, we will tend to interpret his words negatively when he could very well be honest with us. Employees will generally believe the manager's words, but only with regards to official working information. They may not trust him on a personal basis. Semantic or language barriers. Inability to converse in a language that is known by both the sender and the receiver is the greatest barrier to effective communication. Semantic or language barriers may create in different forms, which are Linguistic differences, the use of technical language, local language, and uncommon words. Linguistic differences are a great obstacle in effective communication. This is perhaps due to ambiguity of language. Managers should try to overcome all the causes for ineffective communication so as to ensure organizational success. Different languages and cultures represent a national barrier which is particularly important for organizations involved in overseas business. Use of technical language. Sometimes we don't know that we use words that are not easily understood by other people. These could be words from a dialect that is not common to the people in your office, or it could be a jargon that others don't know the meaning to. Local language. Local language may create barriers due to different pronunciation in today's global scenario. The greatest compliment we can pay to another person is by speaking and effectively communicating to them in their local language. We need to understand that the native language of employees can be different from anyone else's. Uncommon words. When the center uses uncommon words, it creates a problem to understand the masses. This is an important barrier to communication. When a person uses inappropriate words while conversing or writing, it could lead to a misunderstanding between the sender and a receiver. The factors of which also create barriers to effective communication are information overload, faulty expression, status of power differences, partial communication, negative attitude to change, distraction or noise, physical barrier, cultural barriers, and gender barriers. Information overload. Managers are surrounded with a pool of information. It is essential to control this information flow, else the information is likely to be misinterpreted or forgotten or overlooked. As a result, communication is less effective. When in communication men become overloaded with information, they fail to select important messages. As a result, communication is disrupted. Faulty expression. Faulty expression of the message also fails to convey the accurate meaning to the receiver. Faulty expression of the sender may occur in different ways. Lack of clarity, use of vague terms, etc. Status or power differences. Status or power differences between sender and receiver may also create prestigious or ego problem in effective communication process. Partial communication. Partial communication refers to part of the messages or information is sent to the receiver. Partial communication may not be understandable for the receiver, which also creates a problem in effective communication. Negative attitude to change. Most of the people of the organization always resist to any kind of changes of the organization. They show negative attitude and create problems to residents, inattention, humor, etc. to change for fear of their losing status and position. Distraction or noise. Communication is also affected a lot by noise to distractions. Physical distractions are also there, such as poor lighting, uncomfortable settings, unhygienic room also affects communication in a meeting. Similarly, use of loudspeakers interferes with communication. Physical barrier. This means physically separated with the people from organization, which makes it difficult to relate to them or talk to them. Research shows that one of the most important factors in building cohesive teams is proximity. As long as people still have a personal space that they can call their own, nearness to others is communication because it helps us get to know one another. Cultural barrier. The world is made up of diverse cultures. A cultural barrier arises when two individuals in an organization belong to different religions, states or countries. When we join a group and wish to remain in it, sooner or later we need to adopt the behavior patterns of the group. Finally, gender barriers. There are distinct differences between the speech patterns in a man and those in a woman. A woman speaks between 20,000 and 25,000 words a day, whereas a man speaks between 7,000 and 10,000. In childhood, girls speak earlier than boys, and at the age of 3 have a vocabulary twice that of boys. The reason for this lies in the varying of a man's and woman's brain. When a man talks, his space is located in the left side of the brain, but in no specific area. When a woman talks, the space is located in both hemispheres and in two specific locations. This means that a man talks in a linear, logical, and compartmentalized way, features of left brain thinking, whereas a woman talks more freely, mixing logic and emotion, features of both sides of the brain.